Welcome everyone to Grounded, the virtual reality edition. And we're going to do an artist talk today where people are joining from all over and we can get a little taste of their thoughts on the work they submitted and what grounded means to them. So if Emily is here, would you like to start us off?
Sure.
Great.
Sure. Okay. All right. So this my piece is Orbit. It was um, an acrylic painting, and um, it was I knew it was the right painting to submit to the show because I really wanted to um, I really wanted to show how much you're grounded in your children and how I felt a very kind of deeply connective, almost like I was also grounded in a kind of primitive, ancient way as well. And I wanted to kind of show that metaphor in the way like the planets are grounded in orbit with each other through gravity, and just to show that both in the painting was my objective.
Absolutely beautiful. I love the. Was that a reductive approach that you used in the background?
Um, what do you mean by that?
Like removing the paint, like
Yes,
pulling
yes.
it up? Yeah, I love that. And that kind of reminds me of planets or stars. I don't know if
Hmm.
that was your intent.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely wanted to kind of overlay the two things together. Um, trying to like with the swaddle, trying to almost make
Mm.
the swaddle look like a moon, and
Oh,
even the mom holding a ball in her hand that looks like Earth.
oh, I didn't even notice that. Now I see it. That's beautiful.
Yep, and just other natural elements as well, like the water, uh, the way water looks in space on the jeans, and
Oh,
the sky elements in the older child's shirt.
oh
Just
yeah.
kind of, I wanted them to be like almost atmospheric, ancient natural elements, all grounded within one another as well.
I love that. Did anyone have any questions for Emily? And yeah, feel free to get right up close so you can see
Yeah,
textures.
I'll back up a little
Are all
bit.
your paintings in a similar fashion, or
Yes and no. I feel like my style definitely evolves slowly over time, so it's hard to say if they're all like that. Certainly, ones I've done uh, closer in time were are more this style, but yeah, just almost yeah. I would say so. I definitely I've been painting a lot more people as of recent as well, so it definitely fits in
very
that vein.
nice, very nice. I like the style. I like the painterly quality of it.
Yeah, really nice. Anyone else?
Not a question, but I just really enjoy those hands. I keep
Yeah,
getting up close and looking at them.
they are great and not easy. Awesome. Well, thank you, Emily.
Well, thank you. This is
Yeah.
this is the first time I've done this too, so
Yeah, it's a unique experience, right? And I think we have,
yeah.
did I see Justin floating around here?
Hello.
Hey, Justin. He is the brains behind or the tech brain behind Artgate?
One of them, many.
One of the many. He's humble as well.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And the exhibition looks amazing. I checked it out earlier.
Oh, thank you.
Hearing the insights from the artists.
Yeah, it's a great combination of work, and I love how everybody interprets the theme. And is Thalia available? Can you, are you speaking? If you are speaking, move your head around. Okay, you are speaking. I guess I don't hear you. Do you want to try hitting the tab for menu and make sure you're not on mute yourself?
If you need to get your cursor, you gotta hit the escape button.
Did your browser by any chance ask if you had mic permissions?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
We'll go on.
my medium is drawing. That's what I do. When I do, in this particular one, I've kind of abstracted the face, which is my typical thing that I do. I tend to have my work where you can very much easily recognize it, and actually this looks a lot like the person I drew, even though I did abstractions for it. I guess, I do portraits, I do landscapes, and on the bottom of this is this is Esther Hammersborg, and I used to live outside of Duluth, Minnesota, and in a small town in northern Wisconsin. And the landscape is Lake Superior, and Esther was a very, very kind older woman who was just, she was very much like a motherly figure to me. So, in their town they lived in was a little town called Fort Wayne, Wisconsin, on the shores of Lake Superior. So the drawing is, the landscape is of Lake Superior. The center area, which is dark, what I do, actually right now, today I've been working on one of my, what I call my illuminated manuscripts. I've been drawing I get a piece of paper and I write out, in this case I've been writing out various passages, mainly from the Bible, and then I abstract it. In this one here, I've written in different things. Often I write in very personal things. And then I kind of abstract it so that the letters and the words kind of become part of the design. But at the same time, it's become very personal to me. I guess that's all I have to say. Anybody have any questions?
Did you base the middle part here on a Bible passage?
Not that one. No.
Okay.
No, not that one. I have had the other. I had submitted some other drawings, and those I had Bible passages in there. This was an older piece. This is from 1982 when I was still living out in the Midwest. And so this would have had, in that dark rectangle, vertical rectangle I do writings in there, and I would have written things that are very personal into it. And I write it, and then I hide it, and so that I can put kind of myself into the artwork a lot. I pour a lot of my own feelings and emotions and things that are going on into my artwork. But at the same time, I pour it into there, but it's personal. So I put it in there. I hide it. I want it to be just ever so slightly noticeable,
Hmm.
so it adds a little bit of maybe a mystery to it. Um, and same thing with these other ones, which I call my illuminated manuscript series. You can make out the words, but it's hard to read the whole passages. So the words become part of the design.
Hmm. That's
You know,
really
and
fascinating. I like that idea of playing with, putting yourself out there as an artist and but not giving everything out. Well, keeping that for yourself too.
yeah, I've been doing even more of that lately.
Yeah.
I live in upstate New York, almost 100 miles north of New York City, and I came out here to go to school at NYU, and I have my master's degree in art therapy.
Yeah.
So I do what I did here, kind of conscious but semi-conscious. Now I do very intentionally. So, for instance, recently I've been diagnosed with cancer, and so I've just been really pouring. When you hear that word, it's like being hit in the head with a board, and it's very very raw energy when you hear that kind of thing. So what I do is kind of been taking lately that very raw emotion, and I just pour it into artwork very intentionally. So it's like, because I've got several portraits of me just screaming, and the artwork, I think you look at it, it's almost uncomfortable to look at, but I think it makes it a very strong artwork when I do that intentionally. So something I do periodically, even more so now that I've studied art therapy, is that when I have a strong feeling, I'll take that emotion and I'll do artwork at that time. I don't know if the doing that process necessarily makes me feel a lot better, except that I'll feel kind of pride in the work I did, because it like I think that, when you take a raw emotion and you pour it into your art and you let it just go, and not try to hide the fact that you're feeling it just had a board smack you in the head. Um, it can really make, it can really, in the case of these drawings, I think the ones that I did recently, I think it really does make a very, very strong artwork because you're just pouring it in there. I was talking to you before about how if you look at some of Vincent van Gogh's most dynamic paintings where he uses some of the bright yellows and the floors are slightly distorted. I was reading about some of them, and some of those paintings he did just prior to him having the psychiatric hospitalizations. And I think he did some of that sort of thing unconsciously. He just had this raw energy, raw emotion just poured into artwork. And again, I don't know if it made him feel better, but I think it resulted in some of his more dynamic works.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Going off on a whole different tangent than what I
No,
said.
you're
But
I know. Yes, I can relate to that feeling, and also, I'm so glad that you have art as a tool for working out those emotions because that's such a important and powerful thing, and not everybody has an outlet like that. So I'm glad that you have that outlet, and um, this piece in particular, I just did want to say too that I loved the combination of kind of the angular um, hardness and then the softness as well, and that echo from the landscape into you almost make a landscape out of the portrait too. And I just think it's really well done.
thank you.
Did anyone else have any questions or comments for Gary?
What's
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what does it say in the middle?
Well,
I mean,
the wording right there that you can kind of make out is the name Goodwin. Goodwin was Esther's husband,
mhm.
so I included him into the artwork that way.
Awesome. I was wondering where you studied art therapy.
At New York University, NYU.
Nice. My fiance is about to finishing her master's now in that therapy.
Oh, where's she going? Doing hers?
In Toronto, it's called TADI, Toronto Art Therapy Institute.
Okay. Yeah, I worked at psychiatric centers for about 20 years, but then I eventually became a high school art teacher.
Nice.
For where I live, the art therapy is not, you know, not much around. But down in New York City, I worked at two different hospitals and a school for motion disturbed as a therapist.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. Looking around to see if Thalia came back. Is she with us? Yeah? Did I hear you? Or no?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
I'm ready
great.
now.
Oh,
I'm
good.
back.
I'm glad. Okay, then let's turn back and take a look at your photograph, and um, I'd love to hear you speak about it.
Yeah. So I made this piece two winters ago in my hometown of Vermont. It's this kind of woods area behind my grandparents' house, and I think it's probably a relatable experience that sometimes when you're around family, it's not always like a time that's great on your mental health. And the piece is called Sister Ghost Woods because I actually was shooting that day with my sister who has similar kind of struggles with anxiety, depression, and mental health. And um, so we made this on a colder kind of winter day in the woods, barefoot, and it was just a lot about seeing each other and seeing each other's struggles. Most of the piece was us in like kind of like ghostly white shifts, but for this one tree, it had this beautiful like moss carpet around the base of its roots, and the texture was so inviting compared to how cold the frozen ground was and how barren the rest of the woods were. And yeah, it felt really inviting to interact with and to kind of ground into, apart from the emotions of family and expectations and kind of invisibility of mental health issues anyone's dealing with, and kind of grounding back into the body and into touch and exploration.
Yeah, I absolutely love. I feel the weight of the like what you're saying, and then also the how it's heavy, but it's also connection to the ground, and the I it's interesting to hear you say it's cold because for some reason I thought it would be like a warm day, but
Yeah.
thinking about it as a cold experience, like the sensory shock of that is probably also maybe it was helpful in that moment, like to take your mind
Yeah.
out of the things that you were feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just such a powerful piece. Did anyone have questions or comments on it?
I really love how just natural the whole painting seems. It almost doesn't seem like the legs are out of place amongst like the tree there. Like it's part of the forest in a way. Just the natural, I guess, shape of it and the direction. I don't know. I really liked how it relates to that.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice feedback.
The tone of it's like dark and ominous, but the when I see the toes feeling the moss on the tree, it's like relieving and comforting to a degree. I love that.
Really a nice combination of darks and lights and smooth surfaces and textured surfaces. Nice, lot of nice contrast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I could kind of communicate the the tactile like feeling of like toes touching moss. It was such a relief from the cold ground. The moss, you know,
Definitely
conducts
makes me
like
want
heat
to
differently.
sink my feet into that moss.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Maybe a
comforting.
little less when you said it was cold, but
Yeah.
I agree. And I also love there's just like the tiniest sliver of the sky in that at top right. Um, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I just love the like little peek into like where you are. Other than that, it's just like this this dark and light experience, but then there's that little window into like putting you into an atmosphere.
Thank you.
Yeah, just gorgeous. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we got your sound figured out so we could hear you
Yes, me
talk
too.
about that.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. And let's see, is Aleka here? I don't think I saw her. But we do have Melanie, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So let's go on over here. And this is another one that's good to get right up and see the texture.
Yeah, so this is a piece violets. It's ink wash and gouache on paper. So I did this one earlier last year when I had returned to painting after I had taken quite a couple years off where I hadn't been painting about 10 years. Right after college, I had stopped making art, or painting art in general, mainly to pursue another path. But also, I was feeling like a lot of pressure and expectations at that time for painting and art in general. And I kind of started to lose touch with why I liked art and any joy that it had brought me in the past. So I had followed this other career path, and then a couple of years ago, when I turned 30, something happened where I wanted to paint again. And so I started painting portraits of myself like this, and I ended up kind of being more productive, more creative, more experimental than I had really ever been before, and just really enjoying the practice and enjoying art again in a way that I never really had. So this one is one of three, and I kind of think of it as like symbolically this like creativity coming back to me after like a quote unquote dark period in my art practice. Um, so I've got like the florals on the back of my hands, and I think of it as like here I don't really see the florals, which are representing like that creativity coming back to me. Here I don't necessarily notice it yet, but it's I kind of think of it as like the artist, that creative light is always there, kind of waiting to like be rekindled when you need it. And then I've got two other pieces that I think of as related to this, where there are more florals, and I start to notice them, and they kind of like um, engulf around me. So, yeah.
Thank you, Melanie. I really love hearing you speak to that. I think there's a there's a peaceful there's a peaceful element, and then there's also that kind of sadness, and when you explain the background of it, it makes a lot of sense. And I do love too that idea that it's always there, and that there was a moment where you weren't noticing it, but it's still blooming, and then you know that rediscovery, and bringing color back into your world. But technically speaking, I just love it too. The um, the different high contrasts that you use, and then that even application of the large areas. I know from experience that's not easy, and the hair as it kind of blends into the background, and you just leave these little strands. Just excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been I've been doing a lot of ink wash and trying to focus on being able to work on like the negative space, leaving the white,
Yeah.
especially with the hair. That was challenging, and I really like how this came out here.
Yeah, I do as well. Did anyone have questions or comments for Melanie? I guess I have one more question. Do you I apologize if you submitted them and I can't remember, but did you always did you use purple and the other ones as well, or did you bring in other color?
A lot more color.
Yeah, okay.
In those ones, the portrait portion is still in ink wash, but there's
Yeah,
a lot more florals, and all different colors.
awesome. I think I remember having a hard time choosing choosing which one.
This one is actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Just I like all the shadows on it. So
Yeah, I love it a lot. And for all of you, I don't know who I've told, but I am expanding the gallery and I'm very excited about that because then I don't have to make hard choices like that. I can I can actually accept several pieces from each of you. Um, but thank you so much for sharing. Did anyone else want to say anything?
Ink is such a hard medium to control. It's kind of, and you really applied it, really well. It's not something. It's not a very forgiving medium.
yeah, thank you. It's certainly a lesson in patience. I used to do mostly oil painting and had a very fast methodology to it where I would paint and then scrape it down and paint over things quickly that I didn't like, which you can't do with ink wash for sure. So it's yeah.
Impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, your choice of I'm assuming that the only gouache is in the flowers, but like you could have used white gouache and you chose not to, and that's impressive too.
Yeah, I like too how you chose violets as your the first like little sparks of color floral, because I think too violets are the like some of the first flowers you see
Mm.
in the springtime. They're the first signs of hope for spring, and I like that.
Yeah, I like that they're in her hands too, because it's like she's grounded into herself, or you're grounded into yourself. Like they could have been growing out of the ground, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
they're interwoven in the fingers and against the forehead. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it almost makes it seem like it's more of a like there's psychological flowers. They're just part of the mind.
Yeah, when I was doing them, I actually was debated for a while if I wanted to put the shadows from the flowers on my hands because I was thinking about if they were kind of something like just um, in my mind or if I wanted it to be like, I don't know, I felt like the shadows would indicate that they were part of, I don't know, the rest of the world. But in the end, I thought it would look better. But I do kind of think of them as just being more of like an internal thing.
Yeah, I think you got that across as well because I think was it a choice to leave like the stems out, like there's no gravity, like there's no uh
Right, yeah.
connection here. Yeah, so it still feels like um imaginary. Really beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I believe we've got Lauren here too, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Would you like to speak about your print?
Yeah. So, this piece is called All Roads Lead Back to Waverly. It's a 3-layer relief print, and it's about 7 1/4 by 5.5 inches, so it's pretty tiny. Um, but I'm primarily a painter, and but I did this printmaking piece to experiment with printmaking, just because I had never done more than just like one layer of color. So I just kind of like, used myself as a reference for the figure. And then I actually made the building a rendition of my childhood home. And is a little family house on a street called Waverly Road. And it holds a lot of nostalgic and bittersweet memories for me. And I only lived there until about middle school, but the house was just kind of something that I always look back on as almost like childhood innocence, that sort of thing. Um, and I find this piece really interesting now because right now my body of work with my paintings revolves around feelings of home and conflicting emotions surrounding, the act of leaving where you grew up. I live in North Carolina now, and I've only been living here just a little over a year. I'm originally from Tennessee. I lived there my whole life. And funnily enough, this print was made in North Carolina while I still lived in Tennessee. So, but I made this in 2023, so not even like a full year later is when I moved to North Carolina. And that kind of changed my whole definition of like what home is to me, what makes a house a home. Is it a place? Is it people? A community? And I'm still trying to figure out what that definition is for me. And I think it's really interesting to look back at this piece that I made before I left Tennessee and kind of like see it through the perspective of like marking the beginning of the journey for me for this new body of work.
Thank you, Lauren. I love hearing more about the backstory for you. There's definitely a feeling of longing, um, and I love that you're not facing us like we're the viewers part of this memory, but you're fully focused on the house, and that I think the composition is just really dynamic with the tree on the left and the perspective heading towards the home, and there's a lot of detail in the home, but it's also like simplified. um,
Yeah.
did you have a photo, or did you like go back to the house to look at it, or
Um,
used your
I
imagination?
I actually referenced Google Maps,
Oh
like the
wow.
street view.
Okay,
So
cool.
I there's a little bit of creative liberty
Yeah,
with like how it looks, but
yeah,
and also I couldn't get a lot of detail just because it was so small and I was trying to
yeah.
carve it, and but
Oh yeah.
that's what I used for the house.
I really love that. And yeah, just so everyone knows, I enlarged it for VR, so we could all stand around it a little bit easier. But yeah, it is smaller than the tag says. Um, Beautiful. Did anybody have comments or questions for Lauren on this one?
More of an observation. It makes me think of Christina's World a little
Yeah,
bit, that painting by and by.
Yeah.
yeah, I felt that too.
Yeah, like a nostalgia and they're in their own kind of mind.
I like the idea of what you said about how you might have taken some creative liberties with the way the house actually looks, and maybe being a little less detailed, because I feel like that's how you think of your childhood home. The memories might be a little foggy when you remember like exactly how it looks if you were to try to draw it from memory.
Yeah, and also the scale of like the house almost feeling small, and I think like when we look back at remember, I mean, I've been in my own house. I mean, my childhood house is still my parents still live there, so I don't have that kind of feeling. But like when I return to a place that I was as a child, it always does seem like smaller than it was. So they're almost, like I get like she's in the foreground, that's why she's bigger, but it also kind of feels like a play on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just love the textures and the patterning and the woodcut and the color choices too.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very tough trying to figure out the technical aspects of that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like it was a struggle.
Believe me, it was.
Okay.
Now, is this this looks like or is it the same block you used 3 times, and you did a gradual reduction of the where you constantly you printed it once and you carved some way, printed it again? Is that what you did, or you did use?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
I did the like pink red first, and then I carved away all the places I wanted it to be, red. And then I printed the blue on top, and then carved away all the stuff I want blue. And then I did the final layer for the black.
I've tried this, and boy, did not me. I had such a hard time lining it up each time. You did a really good job of lining it up.
I think I went through about 50 pieces of paper trying to line it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know that one. Yeah.
This was one of the better ones.
I kind of like that though too when things are like not perfectly lined. When I see prints like that is kind of
Yeah, you
character.
kind of see like a vibe around it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. So have you done reductive wood print since?
I know I did one after I moved to North Carolina, but I've only done one layer.
Okay.
It's just one of those things where I really got to experiment with it while I was in college for art because
Right.
I had the resources there. But
Right.
now that I'm not in school and I don't have a whole bunch of money,
Yeah.
I can't do it as much as I would want to.
Yeah, I know how that goes. I definitely gave up some experimental stuff when I left college. I used to make my own like stretcher bars when I had a wood shop, and then I was like, and I'm not gonna try this without the right tools.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
thank you all. I hope you've enjoyed this unique experience, but isn't it cool how we're all sprinkled all over the place but feel like we're in the same room?
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I
Yeah.
had a question about like about the whole format